About 2 months ago, my wife told me she wanted a divorce. She said she was unhappy in our marriage, that I didn't support her emotional needs, that I was too cold and too negative. The announcement shook me to my core. Our marriage was foundational to my identity. For over 9 years, I'd been a faithful husband, a reliable provider, and a devoted father to our 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 4. Sure, we'd had our problems, but I thought they were manageable, nothing we couldn't work through. I begged her to give me a chance, to let us try marriage counseling. Reluctantly, she agreed. What followed was the hardest month of my life. I spiraled into a deep depression, consumed by guilt and confusion. How had I failed so badly that she was ready to throw everything away? She seemed determined to highlight every shortcoming I'd ever had. My failures, our incompatibility, her refusal to forgive. It was relentless. Desperate to save our marriage, I threw myself into self-improvement. I sought help for my depression, starting Zoloft and devouring every resource I could find on reconciliation. I apologized endlessly, taking full responsibility for the pain I'd caused. But nothing I did seemed to matter. If anything, my efforts pushed her further away. She became colder, more distant, more resolute. Then came the ultimatums. She called my family, telling them I was suicidal, a claim that wasn't true, and enlisted their help to convince me to move in with my parents. She framed it as a necessity for my growth, saying, "We can't get better until you get better." She threatened to withhold access to our children, declaring me too unstable to be alone with them. "You'll have supervised visits," she said, as though I were a stranger to my own kids. She also hinted at eviction, mentioning that her mother was prepared to send me a notice. Since we live on her family's farm, she could stay, but I couldn't. Felt like my world was collapsing. A few weeks ago, I finally sought advice from friends, family, and attorneys. They couldn't understand her unwillingness to work on our marriage. By all accounts, we'd had a good life together. Then, one attorney suggested I hire a private investigator. It was legal to track the car she drove and review the call and text logs from our cell provider. I didn't hire a PI, but I did review her cell records. That's when the truth began to emerge. She'd started texting another man about 3 weeks before she first mentioned divorce. He was extremely wealthy, with kids the same age as ours, and he was also going through a divorce. She'd even consulted with his attorney for her own case. The pieces began falling into place. Last week, I ordered a GPS tracking device for her car. It arrived at my office yesterday. After setting it up, I discreetly placed it in her glove box. That night, she told me she was going to a friend's house for wine and conversation. A girls' night. It sounded innocent enough, but something felt off. She showered, put on makeup, and left around 8 p.m. normally. She'd be in bed by 9. Curious, I opened the tracking app. She didn't go to her friend's house. Instead, she drove to the man's house she'd been texting for months. She stayed there until after midnight before coming home. The puzzle was complete. Her unwillingness to reconcile, her overnight stays at her mom's house, just 2 miles from his place. It all made sense. She'd been cheating on me, likely for a while. Oddly, discovering the affair brought a sense of relief. South Carolina law states that alimony can't be awarded to someone who commits adultery. Additionally, proving infidelity eliminates the requirement to live separately for a year before filing for divorce. The burden of proof is low. Just inclination and opportunity are enough. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to act. I retained an attorney and am gathering the evidence I need. Once I have enough proof, I'll serve her with divorce papers. For the first time in weeks, I feel clarity. I'm no longer stuck in a futile battle to save our marriage. I see her for who she really is. Not the woman I thought I married, but someone willing to manipulate and gaslight me into believing I was the problem all along. I'm heartbroken for our children, who will have to navigate the fallout of this mess. But I know staying in this marriage would only teach them the wrong lessons about love, respect, and trust. It's time to move forward, to rebuild my life and show my kids that even in the face of betrayal, we can find strength and dignity.